Hey guys, Huzz here bringing you another video, this time an Aatrox guide, and before we get into it, I thought I'd just mention that we are doing this guide in July 2014, so if you're watching this several months down the line, or a year down the line, it could be out of date, so I thought I'd just get that out the way. But Aatrox is a champion that is a great top laner, he's great at dueling people 1v1, and he's not even that bad at the 2v1 meta, if that's kind of around at the right time. So without further ado, let's get into the Masteries. So the first Mastery page I want to show you is the standard Mastery page. And the first thing you'll note, it is actually 921-0. Very standard, this is what most LCS players use once they play in LCS. And yeah, there's not much really standing out here. The only things that I'd kind of mention is the Preservance and the Second Wind Mastery points in defense. Both got nerfed a few months back, but they are still extremely strong for Aatrox. If you're unaware what Second Wind does, it increases your lifesteal, self-healing, all that type of thing by 10% when your life is below 25% health. Now this goes amazingly well with Aatrox's W. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it just works very, very well with him. Now the next Mastery page I want to show you, and remember you can pause the video if you do want to have a further look at the Mastery pages, is the Damage Aatrox page. Now, I'd only recommend you guys to take this page if either you're extremely confident that you're going to win your lane, you do not need a tank whatsoever, you know, you've got like a Maokai or something, you've got like a Maokai jungle and a Leona support, so you don't need any more tanks. That's only when I would take this page. And even myself, I don't really take this page often. But that is that page. Just predominantly, the only thing that I'd mention is you take both Spell Weaving and Blade Weaving over in the offense tree, simply because they complement each other, as Aatrox uses both spells and obviously auto attacks. So that's pretty much that. And then the final Mastery page that I personally use on Aatrox is the Mixed Aatrox page. It combines a bit of damage and some tankiness in there. So it's a 12-18 page. Probably the biggest thing is obviously you're just getting a little bit more damage in the offense tree, but you're still maintaining the Preservance and the Second Wind Mastery. You're also getting the reduced crit in there. Obviously these can be swapped out for MR if you're against an AP champion, by the way. But you're getting the reduced crit because this page you generally run against something like Irelia, who you're really going to just duel 1v1, and that crit could make a difference, seeing that Irelia does take Triforce. So that is them pages. Moving on to the runes right now. Moving on to the runes, as mentioned, we have the three rune pages for you. You've got the standard, the versus AP, and then the technically versus Renekton, but it can be used against other heavy attack damage champions. But the standard, as bringing up right now, is just pretty much standard. You've got some attack speed, because Aatrox obviously scales quite well with attack speed. Then you're just running general AD. Your yellows are mixed with health and armor, just for a little bit of early tankiness. And then you've got the MR, just to have it for, you know, a little bit of, just a bit of magic resist that you may need if, you know, the mid laner comes against you fairly early on. Next rune page coming up right now is the versus Magic Aatrox runes. Now these are used if you're against like a Lulu, a Karma, a Rise, something like that, that you know you're probably going to get poked fairly early on. So you'll note that we've got two MR quints in here. People normally don't really use MR in their quints, but it gives you a really nice boost in the early game. And this is where you use one lifesteal. As mentioned, a magic person is going to poke you down significantly more in the early game when you don't have any magic resist items. So use that lifesteal as much as you can, including your W, the lifesteal passive, to try and stay up in health. Then you've got some AD obviously for last hitting and just general attack damage. And then the yellows are predominantly health, because obviously that counters AP the most, and a little bit of armor just for neglecting auto attacks. And then obviously the blues are flat MR. Now the final rune page, sorry, that I'm going to bring up is the versus Renekton page. This is kind of a page that, you know, specifically I use against Renekton, but this can be used against other champions if you're just feeling a little bit, you know, not as confident against it as you might. So Quince, we're running 1 attack speed, as obviously I've mentioned he does scale off attack speed, and ×2 armor. Renekton, or say like Jarvan, something like that in the top lane, will try and all in you fairly early. Having this bonus armor, just, you know, pure armor, will help you significantly. Red standard AD, like all the mastery page or all the rune pages. Now the armor yellows, you're going to be like maybe conflicting with me here. You may go, why aren't you just going flat if you're worried about the early game? Well, because you've got the 2 armor quints, and if you look at the blues, you've got some armor there, you can risk having the armor per level, as when you get to level 9, that is when these will overtake just flat armor runes. So hopefully you can last that long, and that, you know, it means that it was definitely worth it. Then moving into the blues, this is very pernickety, and this is just very specific that you've got 3 armors, 3 magic resist per levels, and 3 attack speed. These are just general little boosts here and there, because if you're against something like a Renekton or a Jarvan top lane, your main priority is just surviving the early game, and these rune pages will probably help you do that, with also just a little bit of attack speed to try and help you just duel a little bit better. Okay, skill order on Aatrox is fairly basic. All you want to do is max your ultimate when possible, then your E, then your W, then your Q, with obviously taking your E first for a little bit of poke, a little bit of harass and a slow, then maxing your W as that gives you the dueling potential and the lifesteal, and then maxing your Q as your basically just CC ability. You don't really need to level that at all because it doesn't really give you much more compared to the other abilities. E will be your main poking device, and W, when you're swapping in between each, will obviously help you in whatever way you want with the lifesteal or the extra damage. Now moving into the next section, we actually have what Aatrox is generally strong against and what I would personally pick him against and what he is weak against. So, bringing it down strong against, Aatrox I find is strong against these champions for each, different ways. And these champions are Ryze, Yasuo, Darius, and Irelia. Yes, I did say Irelia. But going through each of them, Ryze, I think Aatrox is strong against Ryze because Ryze cannot out-damage a very high magic resist Aatrox. And you'll probably find an Aatrox can potentially kill a Ryze fairly early because he's very, very squishy. Yasuo simply does not do enough damage and cannot keep up the damage compared to the Aatrox sustain, and at level 6 as an all-in 1v1, the Aatrox will easily win it. Next is Darius. Darius is a very all-in champion that does one combo and that's pretty much it. So with your passive, Bloodwell, if you survive his massive axe hitting your head with Bloodwell, then you may be able to come and turn the fight. And then finally, Irelia. Even though I'd say Aatrox is strong against Irelia, this matchup obviously can go either way. I'd recommend running the 12-18 Mastery page and the standard rune page, and you'll probably be able to out-sustain her in the early game. If you rush a Randuin fairly early as well, that will also help you out with the Blade of the Ruined King. Now bring in what is Aatrox weak against, and you'll see a pattern right now. They're either very strong in the early game, they out-duel him, or they just completely, get rid of his auto attacks. So Jax, even though Aatrox can potentially out-sustain Jax in the early game, Jax is inevitably going to outscale you, and Aatrox is technically a split-pushing champion, as same like a Tryndamere. Both are split-pushing, but both of them outscale an Aatrox. So yeah, Jax is very good against Aatrox. Renekton, nothing really beats Renekton in the early game, and even though as a Aatrox you could potentially outscale him later, you'll probably find a Renekton could do a lot more in a team fight than you can do split pushing. Even in a 1v1, an Aatrox could struggle late game against a pretty damn strong Renekton. As mentioned, Tryndamere is the ultimate split push champion, and Aatrox can simply not beat him in the late game. Tryndamere just does way more damage with his auto attacks and out-sustains him, honestly, as much as, Aatrox does. The items Tryndamere builds with the crit that he does, Aatrox can't top it. And then finally, Teemo. I hate to admit it, but Teemo is actually a very good pick if you're against an Aatrox. Aatrox is all about jumping on someone with Q, knocking them up in the air, hitting your E, and then auto-attacking the living hell out of them. Teemo can honestly get rid of that combo by Aatrox lands on him. He jumps on a mushroom, that is what Teemo will probably plant, then Teemo blinds him, and then Aatrox will probably be running away with his tail in between his hind legs. Teemo is a strong pick against Aatrox. He's a strong pick against multiple things, but definitely this one. Now moving into item builds. So I thought I'd do it this way because it gives you a bit of an options. I don't want to tell you guys exactly what to build because there is no game, there's no champion in the game, there's no specific game that, one build will just be amazing for every single game. So at the top, I've put all the items that generally are used for Aatrox in his builds. There could be a few in there that I may have missed, but these are the items that came to mind when I was thinking about this. So, going through them, we've got Blade of the Ruined King, Spirit Visage, Randuin's Omen, Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads, Ravenor's Hydra, Zephyr, Guardian's Angel, Mortimer Mortius, Doran's Blade, Doran's Shield. So the standard item build, and this is just the standard start of what I personally do. I go Doran's Shield or Doran's Blade depending what I'm against. I may even get 2 Doran's Blades due to the increasing lifesteal that they now have. Then move into a Spell Vamp and Tier 1 boots, get into a Cutlass, finish my Blade of the Ruined King with either going Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads depending what you need. Then you're looking into getting your Giant Spell and your Spectre's Cowl, with also finishing your Spirit Visage and Randuin's. After you have these 3 items, or the 4 items, you've got your Tier 2 boots, Blade of the Ruined King, Randuin's and Spirit Visage. The remaining 2 items is entirely up to you. Just through the items that I personally would probably build, my finishing build would look something like Blade of the Ruined King, Zephyr instead of boots, Spirit Visage, Randuin's Oma, Hydra, and Guardian's Angel. It's a very strong build. You'll probably find that you can wreck people. There are, as mentioned, a few items that I probably could have put in here, like Last Whisper if you are snowballing quite hard, or even Yumu's Ghostblade, but I'd only recommend building them items if you have gone the 21-9 Aatrox, that you're just going to completely snowball your lane. So, just to wrap up the guide, I thought I'd just give you 2 tips that I personally use on Summoner's Rift, and then we'll be closing out the video. So the first tip is when to use how to use your W correctly, your Bloodthirst or Blood Price. So generally what I would do is, obviously when you're at high health, use your Blood Price, and then when you're at low health, use your Bloodthirst to sustain yourself back up. But when you have Blade of the Ruined King, personally I always stay in Blood Price until I'm about 25% health, because that's when your second wind passive will kick in. With your Bloodthirst, you'll be sustaining so much health, it's incredible. Obviously, your second wind mastery will only kick in when you're below 25% health, so one round of Bloodthirst may already get you above that point. But that's just the basic tip. But the second one is, do not be scared to tower dive. I've seen so many Aatroxes not tower dive, it drives me mad. Your passive is built for it. Combine a Leona support with an Aatrox, which I'd recommend. You are a tower diving pair that will literally just go under tower and not die. If you do die as an Aatrox, obviously making sure you get turret aggro first, your Blood Well, your passive, will make you come back to life. It's a perfect combo. So tower dive is pretty much what I'm just trying to say. So this has been this video. Hopefully you guys found this useful. I have had fun, or I've had a good time making it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you have any ideas or other ideas about Aatrox, feel free to share them. And that's it. So hopefully you guys are having a nice day. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you guys next time.